Well. He just kept being.
Call meeting in order, Oromocto Council Committee meeting Tuesday, 17th of June, 2025 at 5:35 PM. Call for approval of the agenda. Councillor Henry, seconder, Deputy Mayor Mawhinney. Questions? All in favor? Contrary, the motion carried. There's no presentations or delegations, so we'll move now to the public hearing of written objections for bylaw 522-1 and 5522-J, and that should be that 22-I. So, we'll record attendance. And I'll call for a mover for approval of the agenda. Councilor Von Richter, seconder, Councilor Daw. Questions? All in favor? Contrary, motion carried. So we'll go to the written objections. Dallas?
We have the slide changer.
Usually in the. Oh, yes, it better. Usually is.
Sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I did put together a little brief presentation here for the benefit of anyone who would be in attendance. We don't have anyone in attendance but the applicant, so I'll breeze through it if it pleases the council. So this property is one that the town has a conditional sale agreement with the applicant, where if they get the planning approvals, they'll purchase the piece. The property is the cross-hatched parcel of land shown on the graphic there. It is a piece at the end of Miramichi Road before the traffic circle alongside the Harold Peterson Middle School. The applicant owns the adjacent lands. It's an urban gas station. They want to put a car wash at this location. The lands are designated park and require a plan amendment and rezoning. With their proposal, and it's to use the adjacent property from their gas station, they would have a automated car wash through lane at first, where they would come in around in queue, and then they would have kind of a self-serve one day shops there, and even a small room on the end for staff had concerns with the application and come back and forth with the applicant numerous times since it's had first gone, basically with concerns about noise. The applicant has a system now where the dryer moves around the vehicle as opposed to the car driving out under, which according to the manufacturer limits the decibels to 35 to 39 decibels with the doors closed around it, which should not be an issue. Staff want to work with the applicant to refine the site plan to make sure egress from those self-serve car bays works well. Basically, we don't want the cars parking crossing where they're pulling out to park. We'd rather have them parked along the other side. But those are things we can work out with the applicant at the permit stage. The planning advisory committee heard this matter at the June 4th PAC meeting and recommended in favor, but they did recommend an additional term and condition. So for the point of view of everyone around, proposed terms conditions, which are shown here as well. Conditions that the car wash does not run the air dryer when the doors are open. And the maximum decibel levels when the car wash is observed off the property will be no more than 50 decibels. That the access to the site, servicing connections, supply of water are approved by the town engineer. The applicants get grant any required easements gratuitously to the town, right of ways or services. A grading and drainage plan be prepared to the engineer. Site plan be prepared to the satisfaction of the development officer, showing queuing stations and the bylaw, and that the hours of operation at the automated car wash not be over past 10 PM. That last one was added by PAC at PACD. Proposed bylaw amendments have been available for people to view online and in the office. And this is this bylaw amends the municipal plan. This bylaw amends the zoning. This will leave the zoning as it is, but allow a car wash at that location only, subject to the terms and conditions we proposed if it's approved. Tonight's purpose is to provide written comments to read into the record for anyone, or tonight's is to read into the record any comments that have been received and give people a chance to comment. We have not received any comments. So this chance does provide the ability for people who are at the floor to comment. And how it typically works is we can open the floor 3 times, and if no one wishes to comment, we close. So if you wish to, I can turn it over to your worship and you can open the floor, and if we have no one We'll close it and move on to the next.
Perfect. There's no written objection, so we'll move right down to discussion on the objection. So, council, any comments or concerns? Councilor Dow?
Thank you, your worship. It's not a comment or concern, it's a question. What time does the store close?
Store closed, I think right now you said eight will go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just wondered if it was
Right.
after the car wash or at the same time as the car wash.
It's not something
It'll be opening up, it'll be running at the same operational hours, both at the same time, so when it's open.
Changing to 10.
Well, that's hopefully,
Okay, good. Well, thank you.
Anyone else, council? So was this warm and fuzzy, council? That's good. Okay,
We'll consider this one closed,
yeah,
because I have another.
so I'll call for a mover for an adjournment. Councilor Carr.
still,
One,
Oh, yeah.
oh, one more, I'm sorry.
Sorry, so this one, old bylaw 510-F, bylaw to amend municipal plan, and 522-J, bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw. This one's for property at 60 Broad Road. So this one, the subject property again is at 60 Broad Road. It contains a dwelling that was used as a church rectory. The church wants to subdivide it off to sell to the applicant, who wants to use it as a residence. Because the zoning for the property was institutional, the institutional zone didn't allow residential as a main use. So in order to subdivide the property and make that the main use, we had to go through the changes to the municipal plan and zoning bylaw. In this proposal, there are no anticipated changes to the current conditions, beyond external and internal renovations, to support the continued use. PAC, met, considered this matter May 7th and recommended in favor. Again, there's proposed bylaws consideration. Purpose of tonight's meeting is to read into the record any comments that have been received. And to give people a chance to comment. To date, we've received no written comments. So with that, I can turn it back over to your worship too, to open the floor for any other comments to be granted, and if not, we'll close the line.
Okay, floor is yours, council. Any concerns, objections, issues? Okay. I guess that's a go.
Thank you, your worship.
All right, now I'll call for an adjournment. Councilor Doss, secondary, Councilor Carr, questions, all in favor? Contrary, motion carried.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, pleasure meeting you. All right, we'll move now down to the monthly departmental reports. As soon as I find it. All right. We'll start with the Department of Finance. Any questions, concerns, or comments? None? Okay. We'll move on to corporate services. Any comments, questions, concerns? None? Okay, Department of Engineering and Public Works. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Worship. This is just, it's a comment that I've made a couple of years now, and I know it's an evolving thing that happens, so it's certainly not a harsh one, but there are a few streetlights around town which have been what I would call habitual offenders. They never come on. For one reason or another, either it's something faulty below the ground, or it's a faulty batch of solar lights or something, but anyway, I can think of one in particular. And I'm just wondering if in perhaps your next department head meeting that you could have a conversation about how do we actually solve some of these? And I'm not talking about the power ones. I'm talking about ones that we own. So. And I can forward you the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, that would be helpful, and in that way we can target it more specific and see if we can't, get them on a radar or some.
And it is one of our underground. Is it near a crosswalk or anything?
Yeah, it's near the intersection.
Councillor Von Richter?
Thank you, your worship. I just have a question. The lights, the solar lights we put along coming out of the gateway. I saw the crews were digging up all those lights. Were we just digging them up to retrieve the conduit? Like, this isn't what that work was, because it looked like they dug it up, took the conduit out of the ground, filled it back in. Hopefully there was some other work being done at the same time, and I wouldn't think it'd be worth our time and attention to dig up 6 streetlights for the sake of some plastic conduit. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, I'm not sure, your worship, I'm not really aware of what work was being done there specifically.
Yeah, where was it exactly at?
you know, when you came out of Mary Brown's and turn left and head back towards that.
Yeah.
The other way, all those 6, those were all solar lights, right?
Yes.
We were putting those in.
Yeah.
And then they dug trenches from light to light, and I saw, next time I drove by, there was conduit that obviously had been in the ground. Laying on top of the ground, and I assume they just pushed the dirt back in, but I could be wrong, they could be doing a lot of work.
Could have been somebody placed.
Could be something else, but I mean, I assume they were electrical lights before, you put solar in. They were wired before, I
I
assume.
don't think we ever got
Do we have them? No, they were.
I don't
They were,
I don't think they were, so that's why we had put the solar on, cause they hadn't
Not
done it.
Maybe they were installing conduit, I don't know.
They could have been,
That
yeah.
again seems to be a bit. Why
Yeah.
would you install conduit for a solar light, but, yeah, I just wondered what it was,
Something else.
just caught my eye, I was just curious what
It
it was.
wasn't us.
Yeah,
It was a contractor.
yeah, so that one I'd have to ask town engineer to
I
give
just
us an
curious what-
Because it wasn't the works department that did that.
I had no idea, it was a little mini excavator, just wide enough to dig a trench from
Right.
one light to the other, and. Once again, next time I drove by it, I saw the conduit laying beside it, and I assumed they were digging it out, but I realized they were new lights, so they're probably, maybe they put, I don't know what they're.
Yeah,
Just curious what was going on, and it's not a accusation, or anything.
no,
I just thought, why would we dig up conduit if we have our solar lights, I mean, that's.
I mean, there must be, there's
Obviously,
gotta be a
there's gotta be
reason
good
somewhere, but
reason,
it'd be nice to know what,
Just curious.
what it was, yeah.
yeah, and it could be that they are installing conduit for the hope that in the future they're gonna wire those, cause that. My understanding is until we can get some of the solar technology a little more dependable, it's still best to go with a
Wired lights.
wired connection, of course, in town. Our difficulty is that if our policy is that we put it underground, well, then we have to make sure we have the conduit, but we can check with Public Works and see if that indeed was the
I'm sure there's
case.
a good reason, I was just curious. what it was.
Councillor Dodd?
it was just, I was going to say, thank you, worship, that I know that we commented on those lights before, and the first kick of the can was the lights, but then when they replaced the lights, it wasn't the lights, it was something else that the contractor who put them in was responsible for, if I remember correctly, and that's probably what they were fixing, because I did notice the same thing. After going right through that, a little trail of dirt on the lawn, and so perhaps, hopefully they were bringing the proper thing to get it fixed, and now it won't be out like they've been out.
Any other questions? Hubbard School, is the contractor there now, or is he is there?
The fencing went up. I wanna say last week sometime. They're starting their preparations now, so for the next little while, it'll look like nothing's happening, but they're inside doing, the first thing they gotta do is clean up. So any loose debris, and there's a lot of it in there. And then they will start the remediation, so that's a process literally where they'll be like taking little elbows and pieces out in plastic bags and that sort of thing, so but they have they are setting up and they'll be at it in earnest here, well, as of the first part of next week for sure, but if people do go by, fencing's up and they're ready to really get at it.
Perfect. All right, we'll move on now to Planning and Compliance Department. Questions? Concerns? Okay. Move on to, Department of Human Resources. Anything? Anything? We'll move on to the staff report, the CEO of, the Department of Recreation and Tourism. Okay. We'll move on to the Oromocto Fire Department. Councilor Carr?
Sorry, thank you, Your Worship, just backtracking forwards if I could for a second. I know there's been several questions floating around about what was going on with the C-can, I guess, the beverage dispensary at the waterfront.
Oh,
I just wondered if we have any updates. That's been hearing quite a bit around the public, so just wondering if we have any clarification on what's going on, if that's intended to continue, or will we do with a different operator, or any kind of news?
Well,
Or some clarification maybe for people.
yeah, I mean, so the Grim Ross, who was there the last couple of years, are not returning. It's not that it wasn't a good place. It's the logistics on trying to staff it and keep it staffed appropriately, given that you're completely at the mercy of weather. That being said, I have talked to the group about potential to put them in the aquatic center, which is not being used, which would hopefully be something that they're interested in. I think they are, because it would then not be as weather dependent to be able to do something in that vein, which would be similar to hopefully a Pickeroons-esque type thing that could be done along the riverfront, along the walking trail. We also have access to a dock for paddling there as well. So there's some pretty interesting synergies that they want to explore. So yeah, unfortunate the C-can will not be back. That's a business decision that I don't control. But we are considering potentially having them relocated to that space, which would be cool.
Be a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah.
Then you just helps clear up whether speculation, whether it was the town that did the decision or if it was the business, and just,
Yeah,
that was a lot of, how rumors go, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, we would gladly have them back because we know people enjoyed it when the sun was out, but from a business logistics point of view, I understood that, when you're putting your weather app out and you're trying to schedule staff a week ahead and it looks like it's going to be sunny on Thursday and it ends up raining.
Thunder showers, yeah.
But then the Wednesday that it was supposed to rain, it was sunny. And they don't have staff, it's strict, right? So that's what they were running into.
Perfect, no, that's helpful for them.
Okay, now we're on the fire department. Questions, concerns? All right, we'll move to the clerk's office. Any questions, comments, concerns? All right. Oh, Councilor Dodd.
I was trying to find it when you were going through, so sorry. I just have a question about students when they're hired. First preference is given to town students, and then if we can't fill it from that, we go out to the surrounding areas.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And all the student time.
Yes, all the students who are going to be hired are now hired. We had a couple come on just this week, or there might be one more that starts next week because they're all in that high school range so they weren't able to start earlier, but yeah.
Good. I just had seen one name that I recognized from the village of Gagetown, so I just wanted to clarify that in case I got asked.
Yep.
And depends on too, this funding for it, and it depends on
Yeah.
where that funding's coming from.
Yeah.
So it's not just municipality, but the area funding.
Yes,
Thank you.
there's some regional seed money as well, so we see that with some of our recreation related stuff, but yes, we try by and large, if all things are equal, then the tipping point is the residency for the students in town.
Yeah. Okay, now we'll move down to administration. We'll start with 6A, planning and advisory committee comments and bylaw amendments. Dallas has that, I would believe.
So thank you, Your Worship. That's just, so what will come Thursday night is third reading of those two bylaws that we had the public hearing for. If there were, that coming out of the public hearing, I would have made prepared a supplemental report between now and then to provide you some response. I don't feel that's probably going to be required in this case, but if there's any comments or questions or concerns, that council has with regards to those two bylaws, PAC has recommended for them, staff, that's consistent with staff's recommendation that went to PAC. But if there's any questions or comments from the council or the committee, I'll take it now so that you can consider third reading on the second and third reading Thursday night.
Questions, council? No? Okay. Then we'll move to 6B, the second and third reading of the bylaws. And that's the CEO.
And again, that's really just to you know, I guess elaborate on what Dallas said. So it's the last opportunity for this group to talk more openly if there were any issues or concerns on adopting those two bylaws on Thursday night.
Then, okay. We move to 6C, the tender award design services for the Oromocto Regional Recreation and Wellness Center.
That would be me, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, a big one for us in terms of our steps in this journey, which is a long journey, but you know, I'm hoping some people took some time to read through some of the documents, and of course, we put the winning proposal in there for people to peruse if they so wished. Our group went through quite a number of these, so you know, it was quite an extensive process, but it needed to be because we're talking about you know, a large contract, right? So at the end of the day, you know, as I've discussed in the request for decision, we did nail it down to a few that we did interviewed, and then coming out of that scoring, we found that MJMA and Acre was the best fit for us. Not quite the lowest, but the second to lowest in terms of cost. So that was good, because you know, you always hope that the fit and the costs are close together, because you know, that's always helpful, because if the fit and the costs are, you know, way different, then obviously it makes it harder to go. But so we're just looking for council approval to be able to move forward and offer the contract for design tender services to MJMA and Acre. And if there is any you know, more discussion the group wants to have tonight in lieu of that, then certainly we can do that.
Anything, council? Councilor,
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just pleased that it's the contractor that's doing the nursing home, because they seem to be moving right along and haven't seemed to have major challenges that we've heard about, and two, that it's local.
Yeah.
That's local, and the proposal was very, very well done. Very well done.
Yeah, those were all important to our committee as well. I mean, because you know, there were a lot of groups, and it tends to be this way with bigger projects where and why you see two groups connected is in Atlantic Canada, there's not a lot of architectural firms that have this kind of ability on a regular basis, versus when you get groups in BC, Ontario areas where there's a lot more business that can really focus on some of these things. So you know, MJMA is the bigger firm from Ontario, but Acres a smaller firm from St. John. And yes, they know the area. They've been here for almost a year now working with the nursing home. So they're familiar with the air, even the area in which we want this built, and they understand the big picture. So yeah, we're excited to see where that can take us in terms of the design process.
Just a follow-up, at the end, when they show the three concepts, have they made a recommendation for that third concept to us yet, or is that the three options that we're going to have?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily yet. What they'll do is they'll embark and take that journey. So they've got some of the information that we've done already, and then they'll put their spin on it and try to spruce that up. And then that's when we can really start to engage some of our community members and user groups, because it'll start to lend to a more, this is what it's going to look like or be. And that'll, when that happens, then obviously it'll start to take a shape, which could be option 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So it really depends. We've given them a pretty robust idea of what we want it to be in terms of that philosophy of community and inclusion and all of those things. So we'll see. And of course, everyone will have an opportunity at some point through the process to kind of give their thoughts, their, impressions and whatnot, and ultimately getting to a design that will be ready for construction.
Any other questions or comments, Council? There are some nice little ideas in there that I like. I know I'd like to make some additions. Okay, then on that note, I'll call for a mover for an adjournment. Councilor Henry, seconder, Deputy Mayor Mawhinney, questions, all in favor? Contrary, motion carried.